Melissa Guerra. I am the Kitchen Wrangler, and this week I got a message from Donna, and she said, hey, Kitchen Wrangler, I have got a bumper crop of tomatillos that are coming out of the garden, and I really don't know what to do with them. So I figured there's a lot of you all that are green thumbs. Not me, I'm kind of a black thumb. There's a lot of folks that have this wonderful garden that's coming out with lots of produce. So I thought I would teach you how to make a 5-pound salsa. This is what I call a 5-pound salsa. And for you metric folks, this is, I guess, a 2-kilo salsa, somewhere in there. But I figured 5 pounds is kind of the minimum that you would get out of a garden. You wouldn't get that minimum out of my garden. You would get 0 because I'm terrible. I'm trying to improve, but I'm not that good of a gardener. 5 pounds is pretty easy to work with, and if you're not planting tomatillos, then I also added a regular tomato salsa for you to make. Now, there's some similarities and there's some differences. They're both really delicious. Usually I will have some of the food that I've made in the video and I eat it while I'm sitting with you chatting. But the minute that these salsas came off the stove, I made some breakfast tacos and I clobbered them. So sorry, you're gonna have to use your imagination or wait till the video comes out and you can see the breakfast tacos that I made, because they are history, my friends. I ate them all. These salsa recipes are pretty easy. I don't have too many ingredients because the fact of the matter is, if you're in the garden, you're probably kind of tired, and then 2, if you're harvesting all those vegetables, you have a ton to do. You have to peel them, you have to seed them, you have to wash them. There is a lot of chores. So I kept the recipes extremely easy so you could get down to business with all of the bounty of your garden. So thanks for the question, Donna. So if y'all are ready, I'm ready. Let's get started on our 5-pound salsa. Let's talk a little bit about tomatillos and tomatoes. So most people are familiar with tomatoes. They're red, they're ripe, they're juicy, but you know, they're not a vegetable, they are a fruit. Why are they a fruit? I'm not really sure. I think it's because they have seeds, but there's a lot of vegetables with seeds, so I don't really go with that reasoning, but they are considered a fruit. Tomatillos are also considered a fruit as well, and they are a cousin of the red tomato, but you'll notice that tomatillos have this little husk on them. They're more closely related to a gooseberry, which, you know, here in Texas, I never had a clue what a gooseberry was. I always knew what a tomatillo was. But anyway, as the story goes, they're all kind of related, but the red tomato has no husk, and the green tomatillo does have a husk. So if you want to get all history geeky like I am, the original Aztec word for tomatillo is mil tomate, and the original Aztec Nahuatl word for the red tomato is jitomate. They're sort of related in name, they're sort of related in flavor, but once we start cooking, then you'll see all of the differences. So a little housekeeping before we get started. Because we're working with so many tomatoes and tomatillos and these kind of acidic little juices that are gonna get on your hands, if you need, get some gloves so the acid doesn't irritate your hands. These hands, they're a mess. They're like gloves on their own. So I didn't wear any gloves while I was preparing these. The other thing is, if you have lung problems or if you have asthma, we're gonna be roasting some chilies. So those can be a little bit irritating on the lungs, whether you're cooking or pureeing or roasting chilies. It might make you cough. Now, roasting chilies is not necessary for this recipe, so you can skip that part if you think you're gonna have some lung irritation. But it only takes about 2 or 3 minutes in the oven to roast your chiles, so it's your call, and you can always open the windows. Oh, and yeah, if you're handling the chilies, whether you're wearing gloves or not, please don't rub your eyes or your nose or stick your finger in your ear. It's a really bad idea because the chilies are gonna irritate your skin or your eyes or your nose. Just don't do it. Like most produce recipes, we have to wash the produce. So let's wash off these tomatoes. We need to remove the stems and those annoying little stickers that they put on at the supermarket. Just get all of those off. On the stove, I have a pot of boiling water, and I've got a slotted spoon, and I'm gonna carefully place each one of these tomatoes into the boiling water. Now what the boiling water is gonna do is it's going to expand the fruit, and it's gonna make those little skins pop right off. And so you can see they're kind of splitting away from the rest of the tomato pulp. That's terrific. Now you can let them cool, peel off the peel with your fingers, or you can use a fork and knife if you're impatient like me and you just want to get on with the show. You can peel them off, but it's just so much easier if you give them a little blanching, a little parboiling in a pot of boiling water. So once you have the skins off, now you need to cut them in half, and we're gonna scoop out those seeds. You're not gonna get every seed out. And the seeds really don't hurt you. Sometimes they can cause a little bit of stomach upset, so I like to take them out, but you're not gonna get every seed out, but do your best. I know you always do your best. We're gonna scoop the seeds out, and we're gonna throw the pulp halves into a bowl, and we're gonna just let them cool and sit there while we work on our tomatillos. Now for the tomatillos, the process of washing is a little bit different. First, you have to get those husks off before you wash them. And you'll notice that there's like a little sticky film on the outside. That is normal, no problem. You can run them under water and get some of that sticky film off. You can use a cloth or use your fingers, and you can rub it off as well, but it doesn't really matter. It's all gonna cook away anyway, so don't worry about it. Once you get the husks off, rinse them off very well, and like I said, work on that little sticky coating. We're gonna add them to an empty pot, and then we're gonna cover them with water. When you're washing the tomatillos, you might notice that there's some little purple spots on them. That is normal, that is natural. There can be purplish tomatillos, and you never know until you peel them. You also never know if there's a bad spot on the tomatillo until you peel it as well. And if you find a bad spot on your tomatillo, no problem, just do like you do potatoes and just pare it away and process it along with the other tomatillos. Place the pot on the stove and bring it to a boil. Now while we are waiting for those tomatillos to boil, let's roast the chilies, and we're gonna roast a little bit of garlic. Today I'm gonna use chile serrano for our salsa, and chile serrano, they kind of look like your little finger. They're kind of narrow and they're extra spicy. I actually cannot tell you the exact number of chilies to use in your salsa, and I'll tell you why. Every single crop of chilies, every different variety, they all have very different heat levels. They'll have different levels at different times of year. They'll have different levels at different harvest points. Like, you can never really predict. So my general rule of thumb is 1 chile per 1 pound of tomatoes or tomatillos, and so that's 500 grams. That's a great place to start. So if you want to add more spice, you would add more chilies, and if you want to add less spice, well, then you could actually just add half or less. You could but really, when I'm making salsa, the 1 chile to 1 pound of tomatoes or tomatillos always seems to kind of work out. It especially works out for salsas that I like to use for breakfast tacos because they're kind of mild. It's a mild salsa. It all works. The only other chile that I would consider using for this salsa would be fresh jalapenos, but those seem to be more and more mild these days. What is up with that? They just don't seem to have the kick and the spice. And again, we are not talking about canned chiles. We're talking about fresh green chiles. In your area, if you can only find, say, maybe like Thai green chiles or chile piquin, you can definitely use those. Use the fresh green chilies that you can find. I wouldn't use chile poblano because it just doesn't have enough spice. I wouldn't use Anaheim chilies, Hatch chilies. They just don't have enough kick to them. If you can't find fresh chile serrano or chile jalapeno, I would use the canned, but go for the fresh. We're being fresh here, and if you're a gardener, grow some. I mean, come on. Okay, so the chiles are washed. We're gonna put them on a pan that's lined with parchment, and we're gonna put some cloves of garlic as well. I wanna show you this little trick that I use when I need to peel garlic really quickly. I just twist it like I'm twisting the cap off of toothpaste or a cap off of a jar. You just move the ends to the opposite direction, you twist it, and then the skin pops right off. It doesn't really work on larger cloves of garlic, but if they're the smaller to medium size, it is a great technique. So with the garlic, I'm using the same ratio that I use for the chiles. 1 clove of garlic to 1 pound of tomatoes or tomatillos. Some of these cloves of garlic are kind of double size, so I'm using 1 clove for every 2 pounds. Again, you just need to check on the size of your garlic cloves. So, but if you want to add more garlic, add more garlic. I mean, the flavor police are not coming to your house to arrest you for using more or less garlic. You call the shots. Add the amount of garlic that you want. I'm gonna drizzle a little olive oil over the top, and we're gonna pop those under a heated broiler. And this takes all of about 2 to 3 minutes. Kind of depends on the potency of your broiler. My broiler is a real hero, so it only takes a couple of minutes. And we have some nice blistering on the outside of those chiles, and we have some really nice roasted points on the garlic cloves. Once your chilies and garlic are perfectly roasted, use a fork and knife and cut away the stems of the chilies. Now they're ready. Let's go back and check on the tomatillos. With tomatillos, you need to watch them because they will turn from bright green to olive drab. And you'll see that some of these are kind of half bright green and half olive drab, so we need to leave those for a little bit longer. Now it's time to puree our salsa. So I have the red tomato halves. I'm gonna add a few of the roasted chilies. I'm gonna add some of the roasted garlic. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt. And I'm going to use an immersion blender. Yes, I know, mine looks really decrepit. But I've had it for about 25 years and I just can't imagine my kitchen without it. It has been a real trooper, and I have put the link to my favorite immersion blender in the comments below. I mean, who doesn't need an appliance that lasts for 25 years? Go Green Planet, I love appliances that last. Why am I not using a blender or a food processor? Sometimes when you put hot ingredients in a blender or in a food processor, they can kind of explode. It's happened to me a few times. So if you're making a puree with an immersion blender, there's really no chance of any explosion. Everything purees really nicely in a bowl. However, occasionally there is one random little chunk that will not puree. I will say that is the one drawback for an immersion blender, but all you do is you pour out all of your puree and you just puree that little bit later on. It's an easy fix. The tomatillos have turned completely olive drab, and so we're going to remove them from the pot of boiling water using a slotted spoon. It's a lot safer than sloshing a big pan of boiling water around your kitchen. Just dip them out, easy enough. And if you get some extra water in there, just pour it off. It's not gonna affect the flavor of your salsa. Don't over puree your salsas. We're not trying to make a smoothie here. We want them to have a little bit of texture, but you don't want all of these big chunks. I really wanted to do this side-by-side comparison so I could see which salsa was gonna cook the fastest. The tomatillo salsa has been simmering for about 10 minutes, and it's kind of ready to go. Remember that sticky feeling on the fresh tomatillo? Well, tomatillos are actually a little bit gelatinous, and you'll notice that this is already ready to go. It's thick and nice, and we really can't reduce it any further. It's just not releasing any more water, and it's got this nice kind of gel-like consistency to it. But our red tomato sauce over here is still pretty watery. So if we go in 10-minute increments, you can see I've already gotten to 40 minutes of reduction on this red tomato sauce. Finally, it's gotten to the right texture that I want. Now, if you have time, you can keep simmering it, but I like this texture for me. I wouldn't go past an hour because you might scorch your salsa, but between 30 minutes to 40 minutes is about right. So now that we've cooked them both down, let's look at these. Let's measure them. Now the red salsa, we only got a little over 2 cups. That's about half a liter of salsa out of 5 pounds, over 2 kilos. That's not a lot. But then look at the green tomatillo salsa. We had the exact same weight of tomatoes, of tomatillos, and we got almost twice as much salsa out of it. So even though they're very similar fruits, they cook very differently. Same recipe, same weight, same technique, longer time to reduce for the red tomatoes. I wanted to show you how I was gonna serve these, so I made some scrambled eggs, and I heated up some flour tortillas on the stove, and I topped my little breakfast tacos with my red salsa and my green salsa. And like I said, I really don't have anything to show you anymore because I gobbled them down the minute I shut off the camera. They were so good. The salsa was perfect, very mild, very flavorful, and just one of my favorites, and so easy. For me, the hard part is the gardening. The easy part is making the salsa. Well, thanks, Donna, for your question, and any of y'all out there, you know, if you have any questions or requests, you can email me at help@kitchenwrangler.com, or you can message me through Instagram, through Facebook, through YouTube, through Twitter, through TikTok. I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm eating the food that I'm making for you, and I am waiting for your questions. You know, it's always such a pleasure to hear from y'all. I'm Melissa Guerra, I'm the Kitchen Wrangler, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here at the ranch again soon. Bye now.